I walked from the waste disposal area. I hadn't realized I had spent so much time there, that I must have found myself completely alone. I must have walked down the empty roads for at least 2 days. I saw a night and another day. The moon had disappeared, and soon would crescent. I found myself in another city, but this was not as the others I had ventured into. It looked remarkably clean. The devastation of the fog was there, but there were many buildings that appeared untouched. I also heard more familiar sounds of life going on as it had done. There wasn't the usual quiet or screaming that I had encountered before. This sounded like almost happy voices. I walked further in, and then I was greeted by a woman and a man dressed in clean white robes, their heads also covered. The woman said to the man, "It's him." I was, to be honest, unaware of what they meant, so rather than ignoring it, I decided to ask for an explanation, and surprisingly got one, and even more surprisingly was still baffled. "Our leader, he dreamt of you a long time ago. He drew your likeness so that we might recognize you when you came, and here you are before us, the very same." "I'm sorry, I do not understand what you mean." "You will. We will take you to our leader. He is the most wise and purest of us, and after all it was his dream that you appeared in. He will confirm this and explain everything to you. We are just happy to see that you survived. He told us he was not sure you would ever come." I was taken before this man. He was indeed a charismatic man. He had a bright white beard and pure brown eyes that seemed to shine. His very face was effervescent to look at, bright. I knew I was standing in front of a very special kind of man. I felt, to be honest, nervous standing in front of him, but he soon made me feel at ease by embracing me. "I have much to explain to you." "Thanks, but the lady told me you dreamt of me." "Indeed. On the 6th of October, before I woke up, I dreamt of you. I saw your face as clear as now as it is to me. I saw you prostrating on the floor in prayer. I heard a sweet voice, which I presumed was yours or an angel, repeating your words. The words I did not wake up with, but I felt the sense that you were praying for the good of man, and that your prayer was indeed answered." "This is all well. I am flattered, but what has this to do with me?" "Please, sit. Take your time in answering. Let your mind settle. You have a world to lose before you will understand what I say." "I think I've had enough. I have to be going." "And where will you go? What is it you're looking for? Do you not already see it before you?" "What do you mean?" "What are you looking for?" "My world." "Your world as you knew it is gone. You won't find that, but I don't believe it was that you were looking for. You're looking for people like yourself, survivors, right?" "I suppose, yes. Is there a difference?" "A world." "I don't have time for these riddles." "Yes, it does sound like a riddle, but it is not. But even if it were, if we do not make time to find the answers to our own questions, will we spend our life avoiding what we already know?" "Tell me one thing. Do you people dressed in these saintly robes die as well?" "Yes." "Then you are just as us." "Us?" "Yes, you prayed to God and your people died." "Yes, we lost maybe 100 of our millions, but they were not true. Their actions might have appeared as ours did, but their intentions were not. They spoke like us, but the heart spoke a different tune. Man may not see all, as man can hide much, but God above can see all that we do, everything. Should one who is hypocritical be rewarded as one who is not? Is a person who does good and one who does bad the same?" The conversation went on like this for a while, and I knew he had a lot of important things to say, but I was not ready for this. I asked to leave and went to sleep in a house they had repaired. They even brought me a plate full of the most delicious food, despite them still observing their fast. In my bed, I stared out of the window at the stars and wondered about what he'd told me. As I did so, something came back to me, like a lightning bolt. I saw an image of myself praying, asking for man to be saved from this chemical weapon, for I did not want to die. Then I saw the moment before that, and I was looking at the date, which read the 7th of October. Then I saw the Scrag City. That was it. It was the day before the earthquake. I thought to myself cynically that, okay, he was close to the date when I did pray, but what did that mean? I couldn't see evidence of my prayer at all being answered. In fact, the earthquake proves it or not, as it killed many. So I closed my eyes, less restless than before, and slept soundly. In the morning I got dressed, ready to move on from the city, when a man came and took me to a lab full of scientists. "Must you disturb us?" said one of the scientists. "It is important you tell this man what you found. If this is about your leader's dream, I have no time for this. Please, I know you do not believe, but please, if you could tell this man what you've discovered, what you've been doing." "Okay, if it will get rid of you. We have been taking and monitoring patients with symptoms of the radioactive disease that has spread this country and the world. We have collated much evidence, and it appeared that the disease was progressing and soon would kill those infected, but who would survive the first wave. Then we noticed one day that the disease stopped growing and settled and started to decline, and we expected it to disappear from the patients soon, giving them a clean bill of health, as if this never happened." "See?" said the white-robed man. "I should remind you this was the same with the influenza epidemic in 1918, which came on suddenly and without reason disappeared the same way." "This is great news. Then I shall not die," I said, jubilantly. "But I thought I had the first symptoms, tired, runny nose, cough." "I think you have a cold," the white-robed man continued. "Tell him the date the disease stopped." "The 7th of October, why?" My mouth could have dropped. In fact, I could have fainted. I turned to face the white-robed man, who for the first time was smiling. I felt as if I'd seen a ghost. It took me 2 days lying down, just thinking of the scientist's words and what the leader of these white-robed men had said, to sink in. How was this possible, I thought? The leader's dream, my prayer on the 7th of October. Why did I know this date? Because I saw it, the only date I had seen. All these things that a cynic would shout, coincidence. But I felt inside me that this was more than that. I had prayed for man to be saved, and on that very day, as the leader knew, it had been granted me, a man who did not even believe, that too when I had prayed in that building as it fell and survived such a large fall, whilst the building was left to rubble, how many times could I ignore that which inside I knew? I felt something special come over me like a light, and I fell to my knees and prostrated and cried like I had never cried, asking God to forgive me, my way, my ignorance. I felt so very undeserving that He had listened to me and bestowed on me my prayers, and I had not even shown Him the same respect, at least, but worse. I felt as if I was crying for every day I had sinned. When the tears finally stopped falling, my face red with exhaustion, I felt light on my feet, as if a great burden had been lifted from my shoulders. I went out into the street, which was full of white-robed people. To me now my eyes saw something that they could not see before. I saw the joy of their faces. I saw the happiness. I suddenly felt at home. I was home. I walked across the earth. As I did so, a crack appeared along the way, and there came a roar like a thunderstorm. The leader looked at the distance, and I turned, and there I saw zombified tramps that had attacked us at the hospital. "He brought them with him," I heard one say. "They are him," I heard another whisper. I turned around to the leader and a group of white-robed men and women and said, "We outnumber them. We will kill them once and for all." But the leader looked down as if I had disappointed him. Another said, "We cannot kill them if they attack us. Then we may defend, but we must wait to know what they shall do." "But they will kill you. I won't allow that." I ran straight towards the zombified tramps as I heard one ask the leader, "What did your dream say about this?" The leader said, "This was not there. Maybe the dream's already been fulfilled. His future I was never told." I felt that if I were to die, then at least I would die for these pious people. I grappled with the tramp who roared and squeezed me so tight I felt the blood rush to my head. I felt the contraction of my muscle as he squashed me like a can. The clouds loomed above me, a dull, somber grey, the sun to the back of me casting my shadow, giving me the impression that this was a momentous moment. As my shadow stretched out for miles, I felt the tallness of my stature. I tried hopelessly to set myself free from these tramps. Then they let me go, and I fell to my feet. Was it all over? A test after all? But as I slowly lifted my head up, looming above me was the fog that had caused this great calamity in the first place. It was heading straight towards us. I stood up, defiant, ready to face my death. The zombified tramps became very agitated and started to squeal like animals. It was then I noticed something strange about this crowd of zombified tramps. It was spurred on by what one of the white-robed women had said when first seeing the tramps, that some looked human like us. When I looked, they all looked distorted as I had seen them before, grotesque. But now, as I looked among them up close, I noticed some of them indeed did look normal, but possessed. Some appeared like caricatures of the evilness humans express. It was as if these were indeed like us, but somehow the bacteria from the frog had made the physical form express the internal. I turned around to see the quiet of the white-robed men and women who were all prostrated on the floor in rows and rows, praying for God to protect them from the fog that carried the chemical weapon that had killed so many. I turned back around to the creatures and saw the fog touch the furthest one from me. As he squealed, as blood poured out of his mouth, a white liquid, he spluttered it up, holding his stomach, screaming, his eyes bright red and bulging. He collapsed, rattling in agony. There I was standing, the fog coming straight before me. It glistened like white-hot metal, its vapor a yellow color, with a snake-like charm it blew, looking so innocent and yet so deadly, a thin vapor of death. I felt a tremendous energy fill my body as I stood defiant in front of the fog. I fell to my knees and placed my head firm on the floor, my nose touching the earth, and asked God to protect me. As I did so, I felt the coldness of the vapor pass over my weak body. I continued to pray over and over again, putting my trust in God above me. Then I heard screams from behind me, and my eyes caught behind me one white-robed man burst into flames. He jumped up and tried to start running. Then he exploded into a million dust particles, as if the fog had annihilated him. I continued to pray until, with all suddenness, it disappeared, along with the dead corpses of the tramps. I stood up and walked to the jubilant white-robed men and women. I went straight to the leader and asked him why one of his pious men had died. He told me, "There are always those amongst you who are not as they appear, not sincere, make a claim but do not uphold it. It is not seen by men around him, but God above can see into the very depth of our hearts. Man may only cheat another man, never God, never him alone." I walked up to the place where the tramps had been and picked up the dust of their remains, which blew off my hands into the breeze that whistled through the air. I walked back into the crowd of Julian-robed men and women who, on noticing for the first time that I also was dressed in a white robe, came and hugged me, and I felt a special kind of warmth, a human kindness that was unbeknown to me. In the distance I saw the leader of these people smiling, and he went down on his knees, and I could see him moving about as if he was crying. I rushed over, I do not know why, but I could not have him crying, and I placed my hand lovingly on his shoulder, and he turned upwards, showing his tear-stained face to me. I wiped away his tears. He held on to both of my hands, and looked deep within my eyes. "Your dream was right," I said. "It was not a dream. God gave it to me. I had prayed the night before continuously, all through the night, that he might give man, especially those whose hearts were pure, but had for some reason not yet found him, to allow them one final chance. I fell asleep on my prayer mat, and then I saw your face in the dream. Then I knew my dream had been accepted, for you had turned to God, and he must, I am sure, have seen something in you that was worth another chance. You too had the disease, but I do not understand." "My boy, there is a time when all men shall die, and our deeds shall be judged. This planet will explode along with every planet, the sun, all will go, and then the doors of heaven and hell shall be opened, and each will welcome man. And in time hell too shall explode, and only heaven will stand in the universe's place, with God Almighty in reign." Then God showed us both that we have been given another chance, that we can still do some good, so that more can enter heaven. 1 week later, and I left this city. They drove me to the motorway where I left the red bus. I hugged them goodbye and had to say one more goodbye before I could start my new world. I got inside the red bus after pouring some petrol in that they had given me, and drove all the way back to where, for me, it all began, the Dead City. I eventually arrived there, and each person that I met, I gave them directions to the white-robed city, for this was where man would once again rise, but this time it would be for the better. I had found myself where I had to be now, the grave of my dead wife. I took a tissue out and wiped the tombstone. I kneeled down by the gravel where her body lay 6 feet under. "I miss you, darling, my love. You meant so much to me. I lost you, and I think I lost a bit of myself too. But I'm better now. I have found the faith that I think you always knew, and yet I would not believe. Too many times I looked away when you spoke of God, and now I paid many hard prices for it. But now I understand, at least I understand. I feel lonely still. I miss you so much, but before, when I was without you, my loneliness was complete. Now I can never be alone, now that I've found God. My darling, may you rest in peace, and one day now, I know, I will join you in heaven." A small tear trickled down my face, and behind me I imagined I felt the presence of those people I had met in the Dead City. Jenny, the Overgates, Harking, Valentine, all of them, as if their ghostly presence were watching me one final time, before they drifted through the ether of their places of rest. I began to remember thoughts connected with them, the things I'd done, seen, and so forth, as if I were carrying their burdens. I felt the need to prostrate on the ground. When I got up, I could no longer feel their presence. They were gone. I straightened my legs and walked back to the bus and said my farewells to the Dead City, my old world, and started the bus back to the city of the white-robed people, to start fresh, mankind's best adventure, the new world.